Welcome, YouTube. This is Lonely Nerd, and today I'm going to be talking about Star Wars. Not Episode 7, though, but as you know, may the 4th be with you. Today is Star Wars Day, and today I'm coming out with a special video. It's going to be ranking my Star Wars favorite movies in order, from least to greatest. So I'm going to start with the worst and go to the best. And I think we all know what the worst one is, so I'm just going to jump right into this list since it's kind of self-explanatory. It's Star Wars. Everyone's ranked their own favorite Star Wars movies. I mean, come on. And everyone knows that the worst Star Wars movie is obviously Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Honestly, this movie... all the Star Wars movies are decent, but this movie just kind of, almost ruins that. This movie kind of has a garbage story about, just the clone making, and, it almost ruins the stormtroopers for everybody. But, I mean, eventually the expanded universe obviously got uncanonized, but it's still, pretty much known that the stormtroopers aren't actually clones, because after a while the clones will obviously reproduce and come out with people that aren't clones, if that makes sense. So it kind of is a terrible story in that aspect, and just the fact that it's political and convoluted, it just doesn't really make sense. And that kind of goes along with the fact that it's really not about anybody. No, the movie's not about anybody. If you really look back, I can tell you that Episode 4 is about, Luke, and Episode 5 is about the expanding rebellion, and Episode 6 is about the rebellion attacking the Empire, my bad. So, that kind of just basically tells you why Episode 2 is a bad movie, because it's really not about anything. It's about the clones, but it's also about the Republic falling apart, but it's also about Padme. It doesn't make sense at all, honestly. It just doesn't... I don't know. And also, the acting by Hayden Christensen in this movie is just straight up garbage. Everyone knows that. That'll lead into my next point. The sand, so coarse. Gets everywhere. All over stuff. There's a couple lights in the light at the end of the tunnels in this movie, just because they have things just the scene where Anakin kills the Sand People, and you can tell that he's turning to the dark side, and he's avenging his dead mother. That's such a cool scene, and the music is just that. It's just so I don't know, it just gets you in the Star Wars feel. It sort of reminds me of the scene in Episode 4 about Luke, with his mom. It just kind of throws back to that, and it's really cool. Or not his mom, by that, his uncle. And yeah, they ruined Jango Fett. They just basically made him a clone, which is kind of retarded because everyone liked Jango Fett. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Jango Fett since he really doesn't have enough screen time for me to like him as a character. And Anakin's just really whiny in the whole movie. That's just that's basically why I don't like Episode 2. Also, the CGI is just garbage. It's basically everyone's complaints with the prequels, comes out in Episode 2. Basically, this is the reason people hate the prequels, and the reason that the Star Wars trilogy is laughed at nowadays, because it's just so bad, because of this one movie, in my opinion. And Episode 1 is my next on the list, and I really don't like it because it has metachlorians, basically. That's the main reason I don't like it, because it kind of ruined the fact that, everyone has the Force, you just gotta learn how to harness it, blah, 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 blah. The Force could be stronger or weaker within some people, but everyone can have it. But it kind of gets ruined by metachlorians, just because it's Anakin is a metachlorian count higher than Master Yoda. Oh, he must be the only ones who can get extremely strong, or stronger than Yoda in the Force. Kind of, ruins the fact that, Luke was fulfilling his destiny in Episode 6 and stuff. It's just kind of dumb. And, again, it has terrible CGI. But there is some good parts about this movie, other than, the fact that the CGI is in there and, the metachlorians. Qui-Gon is a really cool character, and you can tell that he really knew what was going on from the start. He knew that Anakin might turn to the dark side even before Yoda did, which is kind of awesome. Also, Darth Maul is a really, really cool enemy, and they should have expanded on him more. But the thing is, he might not be dead, because the Clone Wars are canon, and he didn't really die in those. Who really knows? Also, pod racing. I don't really like the pod racing thing. That was kind of stupid, and it just wasted running time in the movie, and it wasted my personal time. We all knew Anakin was going to win the race, or basically the movie would have nowhere to go. Kind of cliche. Also, why is Anakin so overpowered? He's a kid. I know he's a Jedi, but he's a slave boy, but somehow he knows how to pilot ships perfectly. It doesn't make any sense. And it kind of like starts the convoluted political plot of 2 and 3, but at least I can tell you what this movie is more about. I can tell you that this movie is about Anakin and how they find Anakin. That is pretty much what this movie revolves around. But it does bleed into the political plot of 2 and 3, which involves Padme and all that stuff. Other thing about this movie is they like put in Jar Jar Binks, and no one likes Jar Jar Binks, honestly. Next on my list, Episode 4. I know, blah blah blah, everyone hates the prequels, blah blah blah, so they should all be worse than the originals. I'm gonna just straight up say that that's not true. I don't have any sense of nostalgia. I wasn't born in the 70s and 80s, so I think I have a better frame of reference for what movie might be better, because I don't really have any nostalgia leaning me towards the side of the prequels or the originals, because like I can just tell you the fact that the prequels are worse, but it's not as obvious as you would think if you're a big fan of the original series, because the prequels aren't god-awful like everyone says. They're just not as good as the originals. But I do think that Episode 3 is better than Episode 4. Although I say that, there are awesome moments in Episode 4. Like, for example, when they're in the trash compactor, that is such a cool scene, dude. When 3PO's like, oh no, I think they're dead, or whatever, like, that's just so cool. It's just, that whole thing is just an awesome sequence with Han, Leia, and Luke. It's like, oh my god, you got me into this mess, blah, blah, blah. Like, Han is awesome, Leia's awesome, and Luke is awesome in that scene. Just epic. The thing is, though, the movie is just mainly backstory. This is the problem I have with a lot of first movies in the series. It's like the exposition just, like, ruins the fact, just ruins the movie. And they do have some, like, a couple other awesome scenes, like the scene where Luke's uncle dies. That's freaking awesome. Just love that scene. And also the Death Star scene at the end when like Luke pilots the ship and blows up the Death Star. Also, it has a cohesive, easy to understand plot, unlike the prequels, which kind of makes it awesome. That just like makes it good beats evil, blah 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 blah. And it sets the stage for the better movies, which are 5 and 6. I love those movies, but this kind of just doesn't meet the like, it's not up to par with me, for me. And next movie I have is Episode 3. Again, like I said, I wasn't born in the 70s or 80s, so frankly, I don't have any nostalgia clouding my vision for the whole saga. That being said, I really do love Episode 3. It shows the transformation and turning of Anakin, how he turns to the dark side, tells you how Luke and Leia get separated, like, that explains that. Anakin and Obi-Wan, oh my god, that whole scene on Mustafar, like, the confrontation between Anakin and Obi-Wan, is like, I hate you, and like that's just so cool. And like Hayden Christensen's acting does get so much better. And the Palpatine reveal that they reveal that he's the Emperor. I mean, some people probably saw that coming, but I thought it was awesome. And also, a lot of people hate it, but I love the Emperor versus Yoda fight in that movie. It's just so cool. Like, it's like just showing that the Emperor is more powerful than Yoda because of the dark side. Like, the dark side may be more powerful, but as you'll see in Episode 6, they do get defeated in the end because light does eventually. They need to have balance in the Force. And at the very end, when Darth Vader's at the freaking ship and like how his suit gets constructed, and it ties up all the knots of the freaking prequels, and like, oh my god, the CGI effects are still bad, but they're better. And oh my god, the scene where the Emperor and Darth Vader are standing next to each other, and you hear the oh my god, dude, that is just. Oh my goodness. I love that scene. They're just standing looking at the Death Star being constructed. It's just so cool. It really ties the movies together well. And I love Episode 3. But, that being said, how much I love Episode 3 doesn't really compare to how much I really love Episode 5, dude. Oh my god. They have so much good about Episode 5. It's often argued as the best Star Wars movie, and I definitely see why. The Battle of Hoth, when like they're all there and taking down the AT-ATs and like ATSTs and like all that stuff. That is just so cool. Like how they like wrap them up with the X-wings and that whole piloting scene. While it is kind of cheesy, the effects obviously they're better than the CGI ones, but it's just so cool how they're doing that. Like it's just the whole thing is just awesome, and like I see why people love this movie so much. And just the scene where Luke is hanging, like, it really just shows the fact that Luke is kind of coming together with the Force, you know? He kind of gets taught by Yoda and all that stuff, and Yoda gets introduced into the series. Obviously, everyone loves Yoda. And also the Sky City betrayal, when Lando betrays the team. Like, you kind of saw it coming, because Lando seemed kind of sketch at first. But it also just shows that Lando's an awesome character, because in Episode 6, he does come back, and you do realize he's actually a good guy. He was just kind of like, he's a little selfish, but he's a good guy. He won't betray you completely. And also, this movie has one of the best reveals of all time in any movie, the I am your father reveal, dude. Oh my god. I mean, at the time, maybe not everyone believed it, and it's, like, sort of confirmed in Episode 6, but it's just so cool. And last but not least, we got Episode 6. We finally find out that Leia is, in fact, Luke's brother, and that's confirmed by Obi-Wan and Yoda. And the funny part is Luke knew it instantly, which is so cool. And they have the line that they say in the Episode 7 trailer. It's like, my father has it, my sister has it, I have it, the Force is strong in my family, or whatever. Like, it's so cool. Like, that scene just blows my mind, and just, this movie is just almost perfection in the Star Wars universe. Luke finally masters the Force. When Yoda dies, it's such an emotional moment, and, like, there's so many unanswered questions. And also the scene at the very end, where, like, they destruct the second Death Star or whatever. That's so cool. Luke's fight with Vader and the Emperor, and how the Emperor shocks him, and he's like, no! As he throws him down, dude. Oh my god. It's just so cool. Oh, speaking of another reason I love Episode 3, is, like, they literally use the same no effect, like, when they find out that Padme dies, as they use when he throws down the Emperor off the bridge. It's just, that, like, it's kind of the fact that George Lucas, like, was getting criticized for the first two, so he kind of made it better in the third one. And Han really just shows his, like, badassness in this movie. But, like, he's just so awesome. And he really just kind of leads the rebellion to deactivate the shield. And it's just, like, it's awesome. And the Jabba's palace scene, when Luke goes in there and uses the mind tricks on Bib Fortuna to get into the thing and to free Han from the Carbonite. That whole scene is just so cool. And, like, Jabba's boat scene. Like, there's just so many awesome things about Episode 6. And that is why I love it. And this is Lonely Nerd. Have a great day. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at LonelyNerdYT. And listen to my podcast. I wasn't on the most recent episode, but still listen to it on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/OneUpWeekly, or at my friend How To Schooler's channel. I have a link to his channel in the future channels. And just have a great day. I'm out. Thanks.
And may the Force be with you.